And I think those are opportunities where you mix match. Say, hey, some of these things are not a common skill in this field, but then I have the skill that's from elsewhere and I can bring it here. So there's the pragmatic, hey, step by step, hey, this is what you should do. And there's the more of a build up analytical stuff. Let's do the analytical stuff first. Go to the triangle. Okay. So yeah, so for the triangle, I do like what you have here, but as you mentioned, it is a bit of a mix between talent and skill. Usually the easiest way to think about it are like talents are things you're kind of born with or you develop through just big scale life experiences, but you can't really take a course or even a degree on it. Some of them are intertwined. So let's say you're very, very good at research, but research itself, I'd say it's a skill, but this skill is powered by talents, potentially like being able to absorb knowledge quickly. You don't take a course to learn how to absorb knowledge quickly. You kind of, maybe you're just more talented, or over your lifespan, you've been able to accumulate that kind of those stats. So I think the easiest ways is to break that down. And the chart that you showed at the beginning, I did make an edit to that. The order is pick your game, and that one says choose your role and then figure out your stats. The new 10K HP did a switch because people I had some discussions like, well, you kind of need to also know your stats first before you pick your role. So that has kind of switched orders, but kind of some people are already in their roles. So it's like, oh, well, then understand the stats. Some people want to identify their stats first. So in terms of the next step, in terms of abilities, you want to think about, and I really like you have people who are playing the game who are, let's say they're playing the same game, but higher level, right? They're more advanced. So you kind of have that almost like a playbook in front of you. So what you think is one, when we talk about skill triangles, we talk about the current skill triangle and let's say the final skill triangle. Like to be the strongest player in your profession, in your server, what are the skills you need at the very end? So your triangle right now, is that already the strongest, or you need to learn new skills, master new things, and what that final would be, looking at these people would help. Like, oh, they're very good at this. They have these skills. They know how to manage people more. They're good at not just public speaking, but they're good at or not even just good at writing, but inspiration, right? They're good at inspiring people. And so it's to dig down to that. And so when you know the difference between your current skill triangle and your target, let's say skill triangle, then you can see, all right, well, there are some skills I need to acquire and some skills I need to improve. And that will set you off on, okay, what is the path, the systematic path to acquire these skills. Now, in terms of some things so going to the actual action plan, yeah, so it seems like with your talent, with your goals, you're looking to be a person, like you said, to improve talents, right? Empower talents through a systematic way, and like you want to write a book, et cetera, et cetera. And I have been playing a similar game. But of course I've designed a bunch of other things like apps, whatnot. But I think in terms of what to do next, besides those skills that we talked about, you want to define, what you should do, if you haven't done that yet, is again, start writing. I think building a personal brand is probably one of the biggest things that will, as you can see, these people didn't start their companies, right? They're hired as a chief talent officer of Netflix. They're hired as a VP of chief learning officer. To get these opportunities, I think it's important to build a brand, even if it's just in your own organization, right? Build that brand name, and then improve your skills at the same time. So what I tend to do, what I would advise you to do, is start writing a blog, but plan out your blog to eventually become a book that you're going to write, because writing a book is big. But if you write blog posts that eventually all these words come together to form a book, and of course with some more editing, I think that'll get you along the way. And the things you're writing about would be, your continuous learning journey, your knowledge. Some people say they don't want to just pose as an expert when they're not yet. I think you are quite expert. You mentioned that you're good at a lot of things already. So either way, even if you're not an expert, you can say, hey, this is just a blog of what I've learned lately. I'm sharing what I've learned. Over time, people feel like, wow, I've been following this guy for 2 years. He's an expert. But right, and I think having a branded methodology is useful, just like the Octalysis framework. I think since you've read so many books here, you have accumulated so much knowledge, and you have the talent of generalizing them into your use case, right? Your scenario. I would recommend you to create some sort of system, methodology, model, framework, and give it a name. Because if it's a name, then people remember it. It's a brand. Then you're always the creator of that system, right? So then have a named, a branded methodology. Hopefully it's a good methodology, right? That challenges how good you are at this, the talent you mentioned about sourcing all those different knowledges, 120 books a year into something that's holistic and can help people. So once you have that, depending on your bandwidth, I think blogging is the biggest thing because it gathers SEO from Google. Eventually Google says, wow, this site constantly has these right keywords and it's updated regularly. So we want to send more people there. If you have bandwidth, just like these people here thinking about starting a podcast, putting some videos on YouTube, they could be the exact same content as what you write in a blog. So you don't have to reinvent 3 pieces of content every week. If you have the bandwidth, it's like, hey, this is my content. I'm gonna write about it, make a video about it, and that video can be an audio podcast too, whatever it is. So I think that so that your methodology becomes more well known, which means more and more people try. Of course, find a lot of opportunities to use this methodology to test it out and refine it to make sure it works. Have case studies, and if you have at one point, I wouldn't wait for a long time. Just start reaching out to people and say, hey, I'd like to be on this podcast to talk about this. I'd like to be in this local gathering and just share my methodology this way. The beginning, most likely you do it for free. Connect to even like sometimes an easy win is connect to student organizations on universities around and share that. So you could say you shared this, you taught this at certain so-and-so university, and of course, if people ask you in detail, they say, well, this is to a student group, but usually that snowballs into being invited by the professors and school administration, whatnot. So I'd say the direct path of playing this game, especially when you have these names, I think it's very, very clear about skills you need to learn, how to utilize your top talents and formulate that into using your strengths and create that methodology and framework that you have. And then it's about branding and moving towards having a book. And I would probably recommend, I think you could find a publisher, but nowadays I think self-publishing is totally fine. Amazon has a good self-publishing service. I was approached by publishers and I could self-publish, and after a lot of research, I chose to self-publish because I read that the publishers usually tell the authors to promote the book themselves anyway, and they take like 92% of the sales or whatever. So so I think those are steps I would move forward on.
Okay. I will have more questions next week, I'm sure, but this gives me something to start with. So thank you.
Yeah, I actually do want to work with my OP members about the 10K HP, the step-by-step. You're actually pretty advanced, but working with OP members to say, all right, what is the game? How do you figure that out? What is your talent triangle and all that stuff? So that's something that I want to do, especially working towards my second book, 10K HP. So hopefully with the content you're bringing week by week, we can also explore more of that.
Sounds good. Thanks.